Welcome to the 531, where we debate a top 5 list on a particular subject, further discuss it down to a top 3, and then eventually settle on a top 1. Now after this beat, we'll get to today's subject. Fans, welcome back for another week of the 531, where we take our top 5 list on a particular subject, vote it down to a top 3, debate it down to a number 1 of that day. Today's topic is the top 5 enforcers or bodyguards in wrestling. Dave, how you doing today?
I'm ready to go, JoJo. As always, we are going to be kicking this, and I am ready.
Nice. Now, the first list we got this week is from Jason Gross from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group. He has 911,
That's gross.
Mr. Hughes, Sid, Diesel, and Ray Trailer / Big Bubba Rogers, with an honorable mention of Kevin Costner with a question mark.
Who was the first guy?
911.
Gotcha. Making sure.
Not a terrible list. I bet Diesel and Ray Trailer will pop up on multiple lists.
Yeah, actually, Diesel, Ray Trailer, and Sid are all going to be on a lot of lists. I'm looking right now.
Nice. Now, who's the first list you got for us this week?
All right, I'll go from our boy Scott from Voluntown. He's got Big Bubba Rogers, ATA, China, 911. He's probably the only guy who's going to have this. He did it probably just to pop us, so I give him props. Ralph, you know, son of a bitch.
Scott was a big Chris Jericho fan back in WCW, so it does not surprise me that Ralphus has popped up on the list. Now, the next list I have is from Shar Johnson of Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group, and he only has a 3-man list. He's got Big Bubba Rogers, Diesel, and Walter Payton. Walter Payton,
son of a bitch. That's a fucking deep cut. SummerSlam 94, baby. I love it.
Oh, he was an enforcer?
Yeah, he was an enforcer for the Razor Shawn Michaels match. I want to say Razor Ramon brought him out to counteract Diesel.
Okay, makes sense.
So Walter Payton was involved in that. Sweetness. Walter Payton.
Now, what's the next list you got for us?
Go with our boy AJ. He's got Mr. Hughes, Bubba Rogers, Diesel, Sid, and Virgil.
Virgil.
Hey, before you laugh at that, I'm going to give you a heads up. Virgil's making a few of these lists.
Wow.
Yeah,
I just heard Virgil talking about Andre the Giant's dick on Talking Shop, so...
Yes. So you got to remember, there was a time when Virgil, for many years, was just a straight man as the bodyguard for the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. So the Virgil we know now is much different.
I know. I'm thinking about the fucking goofball that loves the meat sauce and Olive Garden.
Yeah, but these people who grew up in the golden era remember Virgil, so he's going to pop up here.
Wow, that's surprising.
Go ahead, you got that list.
Now, the next list I have is from Kevin Dignam from Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group, and he only has 4 people on his list. He has Big Bubba Rogers, Rick Rude, Mr. Hughes, and Sid.
Okay. Wow. We got a lot of votes here coming in. I mean, I only got later, but for Sid, Bubba, Hughes, Diesel, these are going to be some of the guys who stay towards the end. I have a feeling on there. Let's see. I got Zach St. John next. He's got Sid, Diesel, Rick Rude, China, and Virgil! That's right, baby. Break out the pizza!
Now, since you brought us Zach St. John's list. What did Jake bring us this week?
Jake didn't bring us yet. I was not going to call him out. Way to go, Joe.
Jesus, I figured we get one St. John. Why not get the other? Hey, Jake actually sent us some poetry that we're going to be playing on this week's episode. Not to
He did, and he had a little camping trip and stuff going on this weekend, so we won't bust Jake's balls. But yeah, you know what? Who would have made his list though? I bet Sid would have made his list. So I know Jake. So.
Now, the next list I have is from Jesse from New Hampshire, and I want to take a minute to congratulate Jesse and his wife, Unique, on having their second baby, Axel, this weekend. Baby's home and doing good and settling in, and Jesse, you better be pumping us into his ears. We'll stop swearing for a couple episodes, but I'll be damned if that child does not grow up to know where the good pussy's at. But his list includes his list includes Arn Anderson, Diesel, Big Bubba Rogers, Rick Rude, and Deacon Batista.
Batista's a good one. Batista's a good one. So Bubba Rogers, Diesel, Iron Anderson, Rick Rude?
Yep.
And Batista? Okay. All right. I got them all. All right. I'm keeping up on a lot of these guys this week, so. I don't think I gave you Randy.
No, you haven't given us Randy. We can't forget Randy, loyal listener to the show, day one.
Yeah. Randy's got China, Sid, Diesel,
Tessa,
the ATA, and surprisingly, not on this list too much, Ming.
Wow, Ming is somebody I don't think is going to pop up on a lot of lists, but should be on every list, I would think.
Yeah, in real life, it's a street with everybody's list.
Now, I'm going to give you my list, who surprisingly doesn't include Ming. Actually, it includes Ming now. I had Wardlow on the list because as far as like a modern day enforcer, I thought he was interesting. Mm-hmm. Wardlow's coming off, Ming's going in. I originally had Big Cass on my list because I thought from the Enzo and Big Cass combo that he was a good enforcer and played his part. I'm taking him off. I'm putting in China. And then you got Diesel, Arn Anderson, and Big Bubba Rogers.
Big Bubba Rogers and Diesel. Wow. All right. Let me wrap up with two more lists here. We got Mike Flynn sending us China, Virgil, Diesel, 911, and Mr. Hughes.
Wow. Now, I don't have any more lists. I don't have any lists. How many more do you have left?
I just got myself. So, all right. To throw a little thing before I go with my list, I thought I'd throw a few ones out there we didn't hear. These guys didn't make my list. Max Muffle, who was this guy who basically was the enforcer for Diamond Dallas Page in the early days of WCW. This was back when he was first coming out with Kimberly Page. He was a heel. I don't even think there was a Monday Nitro yet. So we're going back. It might have been right before Nitro came out. It was like 95, the beginning of 95. So okay. 94, 95. But yeah, Max Muscle was a thing. And Brodus Clay, who I believe did some bodyguard work for Alberto Del Rio. Maybe a little bit in TNA as Tyrus, but also he was the shoot bodyguard for Snoop Dogg. So he's just someone I always think of with bodyguards. And now to my actual list.
Hold on a second. Now that you bring up Tyrus, he was Matt Hardy's bodyguard in TNA, and he had that time where he held the baby, and it was hilarious.
I didn't see the baby. I knew he was a bodyguard for somebody. Matt Hardy, thank you very much. So this guy I put as my number one. I had the advantage of seeing a lot of lists, and I was like, man, I want to go for something different. So I was doing some research, and I thought, I can't believe this guy didn't make anybody's list. Going back to the golden era, the guy who was the bodyguard for Rowdy Piper, Cowboy Bob Orton Jr. for many years. He had the cast, and he was like, they were sick of seeing. Now, I think Piper always was such a big character, overshadowed Bob, but Bob was his bodyguard in the storyline. So
that's not a terrible one to pick. Not one that a lot of people are going to pick, but up there. Good.
Yeah. So anyway, rest of my list, kind of similar to everybody else's. I got Sid, I got Bubba Rogers, I got Mr. Hughes, and I got China.
Nice. So obviously Diesel and Bubba Rogers are going to be moving on. I think they've been on just about everybody's list. Now,
hold on here. Yeah, I kept track of these.
Okay.
This week. That's right, buddy. So there's the fresh. So you're right. Just by the eye test, yes, Bubba and Diesel. That was like 7 votes. Now, rounded up, looks like Mr. Hughes got 5. Okay, Sid and China, they each got 6, from what I can see.
Oh, wow. See, I was going to put it down to a debate between Virgil and Sid because you made such a good argument for Virgil in the beginning. But let's do it between Sid and China.
Fuck that meat sauce motherfucker.
I think China deserves to be mentioned because as much as Randy has an infatuation with Tessa Blanchard, I don't think Tessa, not that she wouldn't have been able to do it without China, but China was probably that earliest example of a strong female personality that didn't necessarily just have to wrestle with women. She could wrestle with the men and be effective.
Well, I'll tell you what, too. When you're defining the role of bodyguard, China brought something different to the table. There was never anybody like China. So just doing this, not even really thinking ahead here, but doing this tournament style, we're doing the debate between China and Sid. I'm going to go with China over this one. Sid obviously had more of a run as a wrestler. You know, he would main event Manias and have a world title in WCW and WWE, but China, in the terms of the bodyguard role, define that role as completely something different than anybody else.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say she'd arguably had more dedication to the sport. Sid was a natural talent, but I mean, his career has been marked, and you know, they bring up a lot of the times how he will no-show or he will just leave.
Hold on about that, because you're right, but I want to bring up something that's an interesting discussion. So we got Sid. Let's look at the resume. All right, so I agree with you, but let's look at the resume. All right, China was, I believe, Intercontinental Champion. That was cool. Women's Champion, Hall of Famer. Sid never made the Hall of Fame, but let's look at the resume. Sid is a former multi-time WWE World Champion. He is a multiple-time, I don't remember everybody beat for it, WCW World Champion, and a two-time WrestleMania main eventer.
But think about that.
You're right. He's fucked up a lot of his career, but then you got China. You know, she had her beautiful life, probably was, you know, not the greatest either in the public eye. Night in China. That's all right. Nothing wrong with that. But anyway, you know, I mean, she definitely had her down point with drugs and stuff like that. But I mean, China was such a presence, such a different thing. She's looked upon so fondly, whereas not so much.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, his whole reputation has been about blowing off the business or just doing things when it's right for him. I mean, it's arguable whether that's right or wrong, because in a business that, I mean, I think we said it on the live show, doesn't give a fuck about its performers, sometimes the performers have to make their own call. And he's been known as being difficult, but I mean, he's also gotten multiple opportunities. He is a performer. He's massive, and he has shown out big. But now let's talk about our top three here. We got Diesel, we got Bubba Rogers, we got China. This is a solid top three list of enforcer/bodyguard types. How do we decide who's the first one to go?
I'm going to make a surprise vote for an elimination here. All right? I'm going to vote, and hear me out, we get rid of Diesel. And I'll tell you why. Because even though Diesel / Kevin Nash is a bigger, iconic impact on the sport than any of the other two, no offense to him, but NWO, fucking, you know, he's another guy, WWE, WCW World Champion, main eventer. We can go on. However, when we're defining the bodyguard role, as much as, yeah, it was Shawn's bodyguard, and that's how he broke into WWE and he got his part, I think the other two I think of more as bodyguards. China, again, because she defined that role with something different, a powerful woman, and Bubba Rogers, because, man, we're going back old school. Bubba Rogers, watching Jim Cornette for many years, like, that's just what I remember as the first bodyguard.
Yeah, 100%. Like, Diesel did good in his role with Shawn, I would say, but Bubba Rogers, like you said, Bubba Rogers, like you said, much more important. You know, had the run with Cornette. China, obviously, she was the eighth wonder of the world. She really did some, you know, she was really out there, and I would say she was a good bodyguard, so I am fine with cutting Diesel.
Hold on, I want to say this. This kind of reminds me of, like, this thing I saw, like, a countdown, like, the greatest comedians of all time, and, like, Eddie Murphy was, like, near the top of the list, but because he had such success in movies, they couldn't put him, like he was the top 10, but he didn't make the top 5 because they said he had to quit his stand-up to do movies. And the joke was, I feel so bad for him making those $1 million movies. That's kind of similar with Diesel here. He outgrew the bodyguard role. It's not a knock. It's just in this particular debate, I think the other two symbolize this role more. Whereas, like, reality, Diesel became the bigger character and the bigger persona out of everybody probably on this list, just looking around. But anyway, just want to point that out. So this is not a knock on Diesel. I just think the other two definitely more of the bodyguards.
Yes. So now we're down between Bubba Rogers and China.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you're either going for, did you like the more modern enforcer in China, or did you like the classic enforcer role of Bubba Rogers?
Yeah, I know. It's an interesting debate. Man.
I almost want to give it to China because how unlikely is it that a lady would be an enforcer for a group of dudes who include a couple massive motherfuckers? Like, you got Billy Gunn in there.
Right.
He almost could have been the enforcer for DX.
I originally when we were doing this, and I had already kept kind of tabs from these votes, I was already thinking China, just because, really it was something so different. I want to be fair. I'm considering Bubba here because, but then again, you know what? That's more of the performer. I was going to say, boy, Bubba's really bombed. He was something else. But yeah, I guess when you just look at this particular role, I really think you're right. I think China is the one that sticks out. She was a trailblazer. And honestly, she was kind of the bodyguard also in a very big era of wrestling. So, yeah, I'm going with China.
All right, guys, you know what the music means. China has become our number one enforcer / bodyguard. Guys, if you don't like it...
I can hear AJ cursing us out right now, by the way, but go ahead.
This is like the time that you guys... I forget who you fucking bounced out, and I'm sitting at home going like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, how does Liger not make it? But guys, we are the Working Fans Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Working Fans Podcast, at Fans Working, Working Fans Wrestling Pod at gmail.com. We got these shirts for sale. Why don't you buy them? We're on the Instagram, Working Fans Wrestling _pod. Find us, and we will talk to you next week. Thank you.
Later.
Guys, thank you for listening to the 531 here on YouTube this week. If you like what you hear, you can always find us on Anchor FM, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and on the Apple Podcast where you can subscribe and also give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate you listening. We want your feedback, 531, and if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, we also want you to let us know, and let us know what your 531 would be. Come up with a top 5 and let us know, and we'll tell you why you're wrong. And in order for us to do that, please contact us on Twitter. We're at Fans Working. Facebook page, Working Fans Wrestling Pod. Email, workingfanswrestlingpod at gmail.com. It's very important that you actually contact us on these platforms because we want this to be your interactive place to talk wrestling.